Good morning. Yeah, good morning still, I guess. My name is Alan Stalker. I'm a VMware Solutions architect with Infinite Group. We're based out of Rochester, New York. I'll get into our story a little bit here in a minute. But today we're going to cover how to virtualize some desktops and applications, thereby enabling your students, faculty, and staff to have the power and mobility to move about anywhere and access those desktops and applications on any device. There's the agenda. We don't have to run through that. That's easy. All right, so IGI has been a VMware partner for 10 years. I came on board about, a year ago, Jim? And we've done more than 700 VMware engagements. A lot of those recently, in the last year that I've been here, have been focused in the higher ed space as well as K-12. We've seen a lot of school districts make the move to a more virtualized environment, not only for their servers and storage, but also they're virtualizing desktops and applications so they can deliver these applications to one-to-one devices provided to students, or bring your own device, which we see quite frequently nowadays as well. A little bit about our methodology. I'm not going to read this verbatim, but we're here for you. I think that's one of the biggest things that IGI brings to the table. I've worked at a handful of different companies, but IGI really wants to do the right thing for you. We don't want to oversell you things. We want to build a solution out that's going to work for you and your environment and make you successful. So with that, let's dive right in. I want to keep this interactive, and if you have questions as we go along, just shoot your hand up and we'll cover it right then and there. I hate reading PowerPoint slides, so we're just going to kind of run through this quick, and then as long as the internet holds up, which it's been kind of flaky today, I'm going to give you a little bit of a demo out of my home lab. So that'll be kind of cool. So some of the issues that we see a lot in school districts, K through 12, higher ed, is the rising cost of workstations, right? You buy a high-end computer to deliver an application like AutoCAD or Photoshop. You can't do that on a Chromebook. So you have to buy a higher-end machine that's in a lab, and that's the only place that you can access it. That lab time, that one computer lab, or 2, 3, 4, whatever number of computer labs you have, that's the only place to access those applications. You have to refresh them more often to keep up with the times, to make sure that it can run the latest and greatest features. And again, you're unable to use that one-to-one device. An interesting statistic, college students on average bring 3 to 3.5 devices with them every day, from their phone to their laptop to their tablet. I have 5 devices on me right now. So 3.5 devices they bring with them to class. That doesn't help you as the IT administrators at all. It only makes your life that much worse, because they want to get on the network, they want internet access, they want to access file shares. How do you go about that? Unless you have an amazing system in place, which they're out there, to authenticate those devices, make sure they're up to date with patches, they're not bringing vulnerabilities to your network. That's a huge, huge issue. So they're unable to use that one device. Your educational outcomes are low. Like I said, you're stuck in that one lab or 2 labs. You can only access those applications to do your homework if you go to the lab, right? You can't collaborate with your friends, your peers outside of that classroom, or go sit in the library together and access that application. You can't do that. Difficult to maintain, right? For you as the IT administrator, you gotta patch that system individually. You have to install that application or set of applications individually on each of those machines, or push it out somehow. Things break, hardware fails. You gotta go sit desk side and fix that device or replace it. And then the dreaded Microsoft Patch Tuesday. How do we manage patches, right? That was so much fun at my last job. So let's talk a little bit about the VMware solution. Anybody run VMware in their environment? I always see a lot of hands with that question. Anyone doing desktop application virtualization today? Horizon? Cool. So Workspace One is a component of Horizon, which we'll dive into here in a little bit. And you're going to see this theme throughout this deck of slides. What do we want to provide? What is going to be the best experience for our end users? We want consistency. We want any device, laptop, phone, iPad, anywhere, any application, secure, right? Those are what we want. So with the VMware solution, we can provide all of those things and more, while making your life as the IT administrator so much easier. So again, the constant theme, any application, any device, anywhere. No matter where you're located in the world, we want to be able to provide these applications to any device that you're on. So what we can do, and we're going to dive into this a little further, is to get a little geeky, because that's what I like to do, is we can create app stacks, app volumes, which is a piece of a component of the VMware Horizon solution. We can bundle those applications together and push them to any device, anywhere. Not only does that help you, with your application lifecycle management, all you have to do is update the one application, click a button, the next time the user logs in, they get the latest and greatest. You don't have to push out a new image to everyone with the latest update. So that's huge. We can take it a step further, and this is coming down the road. You didn't hear this from me. Megan, you should stop recording this part. But in the very near future, all of this is going to integrate with your back-end student management systems. So student A is enrolled in Engineering 101. It's automatically going to be able to provision the applications that end user needs and push it to the desktop. So when they log in, they have access to all the applications they need for every class that they're enrolled with. No provisioning from you, as long as you keep that, all you have to do is keep that application up to date. Everything else is done automatically.
So is that going to be like your version of a single sign-on solution?
As far as?
With all of those apps? Like
Yes.
Right now we have a single sign-on solution
Yep.
that kid will go out to the web to get, and all of the apps that they need
Sure.
district-wide are in there.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yep. And we're pushing that again to a virtual desktop, or just, you can access that application through a client or a web browser, whatever it may be. But it's decreasing the workload on you to maintain those applications, that life cycle management. Go ahead.
That integration, is that going to integrate with the LMS or the SMS?
I don't know.
Okay.
They're looking at a few different options. It's not obviously available yet, but it's coming. That's what they tell me anyway.
It's a pretty smart move on their part.
Yeah, it's huge. All right, so I kind of already touched on this. 3.5 devices per student. Why not leverage those devices, use them, instead of providing, labs that you have to maintain? Let them use their own devices and keep all of those applications in your data center. So again, that's the big thing. So Horizon 7, I already mentioned this a little bit, just-in-time delivery, Blast Extreme, which is the protocol that we use to deliver desktops and applications, smart policies, everything's policy-driven. I kind of mentioned that hooking into your student management system, it's very granular. What is just-in-time delivery? I'm going to give you a demo of that later on. I was just working with a customer doing a proof of concept in their environment. 10 virtual desktops, dozen applications. They were ready to scale it up. So we logged in, changed it from 10 desktops to 1,000 desktops, and 4 minutes later, we had 1,000 virtual desktops. Online, ready to consume. So here's, again, I mentioned a lot of this already. Application delivery is huge. Management, keeping all that stuff in your data center, to managing those devices, you can do that as well. The cost of storage, I'm sure you've all seen, has gone down significantly over the last 5 or 10 years. And then cloud delivery, which is an interesting one. There's a slide a little bit later here that we'll dive in a little deeper, but with this solution now, not only can you have this in your own data center, but you can have a hybrid of in your own data center in the cloud. So for availability, if, you know, God forbid, the guy out there with the backhoe cuts your fiber line, now what? All of that can fail over to the cloud, and you can still deliver all those applications and desktops via the cloud. Or with AWS and Azure now, you can run all of your virtual desktops and applications out of the cloud. And to take it another step further, this was just announced 2 weeks ago. You can also leverage a back-end GPU. So there's GPUs in the cloud now, NVIDIA, AMD, that you can leverage to deliver high-end applications like AutoCAD. So let's talk a little bit about virtual desktop options. So this used to be the only way to go, right? Persistent. The best user experience. Every time they log on, they get that beautiful wallpaper of their cat. Because honestly, that's what people want. They want that true physical desktop experience. That's important. I've seen it. The problem with these things are persistent desktops, thick desktops. They're expensive. You need more storage because you're provisioning a full, thick virtual desktop for everybody. And it's not easy for you to manage. So I like to put a big red X through this now because it's not even worth it anymore. The non-persistent, obviously cost-effective, easy for you to manage. It's high performance, secure, but used to be poor user experience. They didn't get the same desktop every time, so they didn't get that picture of their cat. Their favorites weren't saved. Again, no personalization. How do you manage those apps and data if every time the user logs in, they get a different desktop?
Third-party utility?
Not anymore. So what we do now is we take all of these different pieces, right? So the application stacks, the user data, their personalization settings. They get a different desktop every time, but they don't know that. Because all of this upon login is whoosh, loaded right on the desktop. So we get that truly stateless desktop with all of the benefits of a persistent desktop in a non-persistent model. It's good for you, right? Makes it easier to manage. You can deliver those applications in a matter of seconds. You can update, you know, the dreaded Windows update. Doesn't even matter anymore. And the end users too, they can still customize their background and keep their favorites and all their settings, so they get the same experience every single time they log in. So I mentioned app volumes. Traditionally, you got your OS, your applications on top of that OS, all of your user data on top of that OS. And that's what it is. It's all baked in. What we can do though now is we can silo these off and we decouple the operating system from applications, from user data, and we just layer that all in.
Sounds like Unidesk, but you guys or VMware is offering their own.
Yes.
version of that?
Yep. So it makes that lifecycle management, again, that much easier for you, the administrator. So Adobe Reader gets an update how often? Too often. Or Flash. And we know we don't want Flash, but everything still relies on Flash, or a lot of things still rely on Flash.
It's supposed to be going away.
And that's what they say, but I don't, it's dying a slow death. So instead of having to push that update out to every desktop and it's got to reboot, we can just virtualize Flash in an app volume. And when a new version comes out, we install the update to Flash. We click a button, one click, and you have two choices, right? When you click that button, do you want to delete what's there and then push the new one right in, or upon reboot or log off, we'll push that new version out. So every time a user logs in, they're getting the most current, up-to-date applications. And then I get this question a lot: how do we virtualize high-end applications? Because the hardware that you're running this on is really the key. So instead of that lab environment with your NVIDIA GTX 1080 that costs $1,000 now because everyone's mining cryptocurrency, we pull all of those NVIDIA or AMD graphics cards into your data center, right? So 2 to 4 graphics cards per server. We can get 150 or so users per host with a pretty okay experience. Bring it down to maybe 80 to 100. You get a really, really nice experience that you can run AutoCAD modeling in full 3D at really nice frame rates. So the density we've seen is increasing with each rev. But it's a phenomenal experience, and we do it all the time. Good example, I think I might have mentioned this already, K through 12 school districts delivering STEM applications. They buy 2,000 Chromebooks for their students. Chromebook's great, you can browse the web and do some great word processing, but they said, well, now what? How do we deliver applications like this to a Chromebook? There's your answer. Add 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 servers, some storage baked into those servers. Now you can deliver all these applications to a cheap device like a Chromebook. And then I touched on this earlier. So we've got your traditional VDI, servers, storage, networking in your data center, all tied together. It's a capital expenditure, right? It's got to come up with X amount of dollars or budgeted for next year. Best user experience, right? Because it's right there, right in your data center. Then we've got the cloud hosted model, OpEx, expenditure, pay by use, pay by month. But as you scale up, you just click some buttons and say, I need more stuff. I don't need to go out to Dell and buy more hardware. Or one of my favorites, hybrid, right? So put some in your data center for delivering those high-end applications, graphic-intensive applications, and then your task workers that are just using Microsoft Word and sending emails, put their desktops in the cloud because they don't need that high-end graphics processing, and they can deal with a little bit of latency and won't know. Also can be used as sort of a disaster recovery solution as well, a hybrid model. So, how does this help, right? So, lowering the cost of workstations. Don't have to refresh those workstations as often because everything's back in your data center now. Any device, any application, anywhere, right? So, when they sit down at the library on their laptop and they're working away with the applications that they need for class, they shut it down and go home and pull it up on their iPad. They still get that same exact desktop, same set of applications anywhere they are. And then fewer support calls to you, which is wonderful. So, all right, let's go over any questions that anyone has before I jump into a little bit of a demo.
Just real quick.
Sure, yeah.
Recommended specs for the actual client that they're physically sitting at for doing this?
It doesn't really matter, to be honest. So I run it a lot from my laptop. It's a client you install. You can access it via HTML5 web browser.
Actually, funny enough, I have.
This is what we see a lot of customers going with nowadays. Zero client, right? So this is full 4K, supports 2 4K monitors, USB 3, VESA mount, so you mount it to the back of the monitor, keyboard, mouse, Ethernet. That's it. This guy goes out, looks for a configuration file, sets it all up. So you literally just plug this in and it self-provisions.
Does that have the 3D capability through NVIDIA? Or
As long as the stuff in your data center can
it?
support that, yeah, it doesn't matter. It's basically like you're streaming Netflix, but it's instead of streaming a movie, you're streaming a desktop. That's all it is.
You did CAD on your phone. You were showing.
Yeah, I showed him. We did it with the school district. I pulled up AutoCAD on my phone, and I was manipulating a model in AutoCAD on my phone. And then I actually was on a plane, like 33,000 feet, connected to the really crappy Wi-Fi on the plane, and I took a video and sent it to the customer we were working with. I was like, "Hey, I'm doing AutoCAD on an airplane right now. How cool is that?" So yeah, but this is the way to go if you're trying to get away from the traditional, desktop model. Just user logs into this and they get a desktop with the applications they need. And you know what this costs? List price, $300. It's awesome. It's really cheap for what it does. So, and they also make, if you're into a more traditional looking desktop, they make a monitor. It's like a 23 inch or 27 inch with this built into it inside. So you just plug the Ethernet cable into the monitor, and away you go. Any other questions? Silence. All right. So let's see if the internet flaked out yet. Maybe. Might have flaked out. Love live demos. Let's see if we can reconnect. The internet's been real slow today.
Do you have a strategy for when profiles get corrupted? Because they still need a profile to do that application delivery, right?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so when I used to manage Horizon View, we'd have profile corruption often. We're thinking about doing some kind of backup strategy, so instead of rebuilding the profile from scratch, we just restore from the last known.
So that's actually a really good question, right? So how do we manage that profile data? So VMware bought another company, and they added their spin on it, and it's called User Environment Manager. So that's bundled in with the Enterprise Edition of Horizon. And what that allows is for all of your profile maintenance data. That's how we redirect profile data to keep desktop backgrounds and the user data settings. I actually use it in place a lot now of group policies because you can do all of the underlying Windows OS configuration through User Environment Manager. But to your question, for each profile, you can say we want X number of backups. So I usually default it to 3. So it keeps 3 backups that are compressed. And what's even cooler is that within the application itself, when you log on a desktop, if you allow it, there's a self-help tool. So if they say my user data is gone, my user data is corrupt, they can open the self-help tool, and they can click a button, and they can restore a previous version of their profile or a previous version of their application settings. So without intervention from you, which is great. Another really cool thing that's part of User Environment Manager is called the Horizon Help Desk tool. So user A calls in and says, my desktop's really slow, something's wrong. You can go into the console and click a couple buttons, and it actually will put you in their session so you can actually see what's going on. Also included with the enterprise version of Horizon is something called vRealize Operations for Horizon, which is an amazing tool for when you're troubleshooting. It logs everything when a user logs into a desktop, and you can literally go process by process and see how long it took for each thing to start. So a user logs in and says, it took 20 minutes for the desktop to come up. Something's wrong here. So you log in and going through, and it hangs on explore.exe for 15 minutes. There's your problem. You know exactly what's wrong, and you get performance metrics for how long an average user waits to log in, how long it takes for the applications to be loaded in, and usually it's quick. It's very quick.
So this is all running through a browser?
Yes, or you can do it. It's HTML5 through a browser, or there's the Horizon client. Let's see if it'll connect. Hey, look at that. It's working. So there's various clients, one for iOS, one for Android, one for, as you see, for Mac. It's a great resolution right now. I don't know what happened, but maybe the projector screen is throwing it off. But anyway, you usually get a better resolution than that. Let's see. Yeah, so this is a virtual desktop running in a terrible resolution. I think it's because it's connected via 17 adapters. But as you can see, so this is my virtual desktop running in my lab at home. And I used User Environment Manager to kind of put these icons on the desktop. You can see the ones that say created by UEM. And then here's the self-support tool that I was talking about. Literally will pop up and allow me to restore backups of certain configurations. So if I say, all my wallpaper's not there, I can just hit restore and it's gonna pick a time. So right now in my lab, I only have it set to one backup, and it would restore that without having to call you to say my wallpaper's not there anymore. And then here's kind of what the console looks like for administering the environment. So, sorry about the resolution again, but I don't know why it's like that. So this is an automated desktop pool that I'm actually logged into right now. So if we click on the Sessions tab, you'll see that I have an active session. The last time I logged in. So I'm logged in to this desktop from this server that's in my DMZ at home. I've been connected for 36 minutes. And from there, I'm going to show you real quick. We go to provisioning settings. It doesn't want to scroll anymore. So right now it's set to 3 desktops. If I bump that up to 20, in literally 30 seconds, I will have 20 more desktops that are online, provisioned, and available for consumption. We use something really cool called instant clone technology. That's what it's branded from VMware. And what it does is basically it takes your master image that you set up with your operating system and any applications that you want as part of that base image. It creates a replica of that VM, and then every time it needs to spin up more VMs, it forks the running VM and spins off children of that VM. So it's crazy fast. Even in my really slow home lab environment, it's 30 seconds. A lot of these
are Composer and everything?
You don't with instant clones. Nope, Composer goes away. Yep. And then here is the app volumes manager. So talk about provisioning applications. So right here I have a app volume that includes, it's got OpenOffice and Notepad++. So if I wanted to assign this to a user or a group or a group of computers or an OU, an Active Directory, I'm just going to assign it to myself right now. Just click that checkbox, hit assign, And then best practice is not to do it immediately. So upon next login or reboot, I hit assign. The next time I log in, I've got Open Office and I've got Notepad++. That's it. A new version of Open Office comes out. I click update. I hit create. It's gonna take a VM that I have set up on the back end. It's gonna pop up and say, you need to update this application. Click update. Come back here, I click done. The next time users log in, they got the latest and greatest. That's it, that's all there is to it. So those are the handful of different components that all tie this together nicely. Again, sorry about the resolution. It's not very good. What else? Any other questions? Comments? Anyone?
So that number of desktops you can have, or virtual machines, is that based around a pricing structure, or is it just unlimited, or?
So it's licensed either per named user, which we don't see a lot of people buy, or concurrent users. So say you have 2,000 students, right, and only 500 are going to be using it at any given time. You buy 500 licenses, and they just rotate out whoever logs in. So, and then it's licensed in 3 different tiers.
Do you still need a KMS server?
Yeah. Can't get around the Microsoft fun stuff, unfortunately. Yeah. What else? Anything? Sure.
So if a user is signed in on one device and signs in on another, would they be kicked off of the first device?
Yes. Yep. Well, that's actually a setting that you can set on the back end.
Okay.
Do you want to allow users to initiate more than one desktop from different devices? So if I were to open, Chrome, here, I'll just show you actually.
Is that something that could be handled in UEM now?
What?
That function? Because normally we do something like that through GPO, where it detects multiple logins.
Yeah, that's all done through, yep, that's done through the Horizon Manager. So if I log into the HTML5 access real quick. So this is where you would see, I didn't really show you this when I logged in, but this is where you'd see all the desktops that you have access to, as well as the applications that you have access to. So I'm logged into this desktop now, and you can see over here, it will disconnect me. So I logged in from somewhere else, and then it probably will scale better here. Look at that. And then that's a message that I sent out via UEM. So there's a lot of back-end configuration that you can do for UEM. Everything. It's incredible. And then you can see this a little better now. You'll actually see metrics of how many computers are on, how many users logged in, the most recent app stacks that are attached, and then you can actually go in even further and browse all of your machines that have connected. So it's all tied together really nicely, and it makes it very, very easy to manage. Any other questions?
Anything new in the way of security?
Yeah, so NSX, anyone using NSX? Microsegmentation, a little bit. So that is a perfect use case, NSX, for VDI, right? So we want to limit the ports that this VM can go out to, right? We don't want anything from within the VM going out to places it shouldn't, so we're only going to allow HTTPS and HTTP and SSH. So at the port level, at the VM level, we're only letting it out of the hypervisor on those 3 ports. And we're only letting it in on 443, 80, and coming back on 22. Nothing else can touch that VM. So NSX is another VMware product that overlays on top of your vSphere environment.
Even from one VM to another.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So if you only want this VM, right, talking to your domain controller and your file server on certain ports. That's just a policy you set up, and it will only talk on those ports. Everything else between VMs is not allowed. So, really great stuff. What else? Did you have another question?
You said that multiple logins are possible?
They
as
are.
a setting?
Yep, if you want to enable it, I can show you too.
And so if you're using it on one, does it change what the other person is looking at? Is that how that works, or?
No. Yeah, so if I change the setting within this pool, within this desktop pool, it's just a setting that says can allow new desktop from, I don't know, what does it say? Allow user to initiate separate sessions from different client devices. So based on the MAC address, right, it would just initiate a new session. So if I were to log in, if I were to enable this and log into my iPad, I wouldn't see this. Whereas now, this makes it easier. I like it set up like this, so when I pull up my iPad now and I connect to the server, right, I'm gonna look at exactly what I'm seeing here, because this didn't go away. Because I didn't log off, I didn't shut it down, I just disconnected from this desktop. So when I pick it up again, I'm getting the same experience, the same place I even left off. So. And then here's the cool NVIDIA configuration, but I didn't have like $10,000 to burn for my graphics cards. So.
Yeah, which cards are supported?
So there's the Tesla series, the M60, the M90. They're for two different use cases. One, you get a little better user density for kind of lower end applications. And then there's the original, which you can still buy, which is the Grid cards, NVIDIA Grid K1 and K2, both the same. And then AMD's actually come out with some recently, but I've never used those. They kind of pioneered this with VMware, the shared vGPU. So yeah, I mean that's it in a nutshell. That's what we can do. That's where a lot of people we see moving, and we've had some very, very successful school districts that have implemented this, and they can't say enough good things about it. So if you're interested in talking more, I'll be here after for a little while, and we're upstairs booth.
56?
I don't know.
I should know this. You can find us.
56? Yeah, you got it.
You got it.
So FYI, I do design for a living. I'm an architect, engineer.
Sure.
And AutoCAD is kind of old school.
Okay.
Everybody's using